All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into game one between, it looks like Hasuobs up against Beastie Cutie. What a match to start us off.
Yeah.
Terran versus Protoss, starting maps Artifice. Let's go ahead and get there.
Hasuob's a good buddy of mine. I've also had extensive experience with Beastie Cutie on the ladder. Beastie Cutie is a fantastic Terran player. He reminds me a little bit of like a show for various reasons. I mean, again, I think when you think of show, you think of like kind of low APM. Sometimes he doesn't scout. Really off the cuff, strange builds that really work out and are timed down to perfection. That's the part I want to zone in here a little bit with Beastie Cutie. I think he does sometimes some offbeat timings and some more aggressive strategies, and he does them really, really well. So he can actually be extremely dangerous. On the other side, we have Hasuobs, and I think Hasuobs might be one of the most conservative players in all of StarCraft 2. He's very much so going to defend your aggression, progress to the army he has in mind, and then try to beat you in a macro game. And I think that's how he does in all three matchups.
Yeah, I think the best way to actually deal with Hasuobs is go for that greedy type of expansion build, and maybe go for that ninja expansion. Do things like that. Really punish your opponent. But Hasuobs is definitely a player that is known to scout out very well. To be a successful macro game player, I think you have to.
Yeah.
Absolutely have to be a very, very aggressive scouter, and that's something that's kind of interesting. But look at this.
Yeah.
No barracks coming down for BC Cutie. He's going for a 14 TC.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting way. Oh,
I like that.
Hasuobs, you son of a bee.
It's going to cost him just a few minerals, and I think 25, right? The exact math. In either case, he's delaying and prolonging what Beastie Cutie wanted to do. Also, scouting at 9 supply like he did means that he's getting here at the most inconvenient time, and he was fortunate enough to scout him first. So meanwhile, back at home, how does Hasuobs want to go about this? He did delay his gas, because you don't need nearly as much gas. And if you can spend more time saturated on those minerals, of course, you can get to your own next side faster. But in this case, he's going to Chrono Boost out of Zealot to be as inconvenient as possible, and perhaps go Stalker as a follow-up to this. I want to say that because of the 2 pylons in here. So it looks like his response, even a second Zealot, is going to be a little bit more on the aggressive side of things.
Yeah, super aggressive. Now, this is definitely a way to actually put on the aggression. Hopefully, BC Cutie doesn't have the material to actually deal with 2 Zealots incoming, 2 Chrono Boosted Zealots incoming, along with the fact that, he might be kind of stressed. Like, he doesn't have the multitasking to actually get his orbital command centers constantly producing those mules, so it can incur a lot of inefficiency in your opponent. Let's go ahead and see how BC Cutie actually handles this, as the first Marine is not yet out, so this could spell disaster.
Slightly delayed because he did go with the 1 depot, which is, I guess, a little bit more cost-effective, of course, a little bit more dangerous. Just because, as you can see, he has the money for it, but he's just choosing not to, so it brings the supplies pretty tightly in. Now, the positioning of his buildings allow for Marines to pop out behind them and use that mineral line. So if an individual Zealot wants to wander in harm's way, those SCVs can become quite effective, but it is not the case, as BCQ is pushing the issue. A couple SCVs do go down, and the Zealots remain pretty healthy. Now the Stalker shows up. This is the worst-case scenario for BC Cutie, because that Stalker can do good, but it's actually shooting the bunker, not the proper place to be firing. And 1 Zealot did die. Nope, excuse me, it's actually up there. And now it does go down, but BC Cutie is starting to handle this a lot better. Really aggressive by building that bunker, but I think with that aggressive defense of the ramp, he's able to hold off the potential Stalker, and in this case, it pays off.
All right, let's go ahead and check out what the repercussions of both these builds were. So we have 19 probes to 16 SCVs. You do see a lot of SCVs actually dying in that particular case. 6 SCVs to 2 Zealots. It was okay. I don't think it was like terrible for the Terran, but it wasn't, it wasn't too great for the Protoss either. I think actually they're pretty even considering that extra mule. The mule can be seen as 4.5 SCVs. That's the income, approximately the income that it gives you. So it definitely does help out, and I think overall, Terran might be ahead in this particular case.
Who?
Terran.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I would say it's not a massive lead, not at all.
Agreed.
But it's a little bit better, and I'll tell you what, if you're guaranteed to come out a little bit ahead in build orders, then that's a good exchange, obviously. I mean, it's, like you said, kind of in a previous cast we did together, it's a game of inches, so it's nice to come out way ahead, but of course, if you're just a little bit ahead, that still is good as well. So Hasuobs didn't do anything necessarily wrong there, I think. In fact, if anybody did something wrong, I feel like that would be Beastie Cutie. Probably could have delayed pulling the SCVs a little bit longer, produced just a few more Marines, and probably would have saved a few extra SCVs. But again, they're in the heat of battle. This is a huge match. $10,000 of potential prize pool is on the line. And of course, there's the pride that they're all playing for. So we could nitpick, but that'd be just a little bit too silly. Now, where we go from here, Hasselhoffs is taking his third gas, warping in a couple of sentries. And he's going to progress himself up to a robotics facility. This is pretty standard stuff. Going to apply light pressure on that bunker. No pylon in sight, so there's not going to be any kind of warp-in continuation here. Meanwhile, Beastie Cutie, pretty standard stuff from him as well. 3 barracks, fairly quick factory, I suppose, is the one thing separating him from standard play here. But even then, this is pretty standard.
Yeah, he'll put on the starport, and the reactor will go down momentarily. He does need a 3rd refinery ASAP, but you know, this is pushing out his tech pretty fast, and I think for the amount of SCVs, it could be kind of dicey. There's a lot of things that you want at this point in time. You want your upgrades.
Right.
That's one of the main things he's sacrificing for his super fast medevacs. It's going to be that +1 attack. And let me tell you, I mean, you know this best. If the Protoss have a good upgrade advantage on you, there's a lot that they can do. There's a lot of tempo that they have.
Yeah.
Just because, obviously, you just can't stay relevant with those Marines.
Well, he's basically rushing to medevac, and the medevacs should represent map control at that exact time. And the earlier you get them out, the more map control you have, at least in theory.
Yes.
That's essentially what Beastie Cutie is banking on. Unfortunately for him, on the flip side, we have Hasselhoffs getting out really fast Colossus. He's actually doing it before any kind of upgrading. He's only at 3 gateways, now adding more. But those super fast Colossus come out at a really problematic time for the Terran because he wants to be spending his money on medevacs and developing his tech, so he still doesn't even have an engineering bay. You want to be on eventually like 5 barracks as opposed to just 3. So all those things cost money, but if you're spending that money defending against a Colossus with Vikings, that can really stagnate your progression and put you in a tough spot.
We'll see how he actually deals with that. Now, both these players are in a tough spot. I think they're just trying to feel each other out, see what they're capable of. You can see the first observer getting in there. He's able to see quite a bit. Obviously, sees the super fast medevacs, and looks like Beastie Cutie is going for mass units behind us, so he wants to continue the aggression.
Yeah.
There's different trains of thought. You know, a lot of people say go for the command center because these additional 2 barracks won't really yield you anything, and if Protoss super defends, then they'll be fine. But the other way of thinking is let's keep on the pressure, have both of those mineral patches mine out, you know, a little bit sooner relative to when you take your 3rd. And then you're going to be on a lot lower based economy for a lot longer. And in that case, Terran normally likes that position.
Colossus does step out. Hasselhoffs taking the long route to get there, hoping to try to catch those medevacs off guard, but we do have a potential 2-prong attack. Yep, there it is. Hasselhoffs getting spread out just a little bit. Drop has moved on to the back of the base. The front is being okay, but a few Marines and Marauders were separated. And Hasselhoffs actually does end up defending. Does warp into himself right below that 1 medevac. And it looks like he's going to make it out fairly okay. If you look at that Harvester loss, Beastie Cutie was able to kill 8 Harvesters in that, well, probably 7 actually with the scouting probe. Sure. Not bad actually, and I would say Hasselhoffs pretty okay form.
Yeah, I think Hasselhoffs is actually
down.
Beautiful. Yeah, there is a drop going on the top right-hand side. Hasselhoffs base, he doesn't have any units over here. He needs to scramble a little bit. The probes running away. Going over to the left side. I love this forge placement because he is away from everything. Yeah. Now stutter stepping, trying to pick off as many probes as possible. He's going to get the hell out of there. There he goes. Nice control. I'm not sure if I love this 3rd positioning, though, by BCQT. I think I would love the bottom middle a lot better. It forces him to put down this planetary fortress. And as you can see, this mineral patch is a little bit dwarfed. It doesn't have nearly as many mineral patches, actually just 1 less, and a single gas less. So
I think there's some give and take here with that planetary. Like on the one hand, it is potentially more dangerous, but on the other hand, it's in an aggressive position. So if he holds this, this could be part of the reason why he wins, I feel. And Hasselhoffs has to be on the lookout for that. Now, that medevac is top left still, but there have been some stalkers kind of designated to making sure that it doesn't continue to be a pain in the butt. Interestingly enough, Hasselhoffs did go with +1 attack first. Typically, you see players go armor first, but I think Hasselhoffs had the intention of hitting some kind of Colossus timing. That'd be one of the reasons why he'd go as fast Colossus as he did, but he's going to fall back on pretty regular upgrades. Second forge going down, +1 armor is here, charge going up, and I think this game's starting to return to a more normal state.
Yes. One thing I'm going to be just limelighting a little bit, is that BCQD did go for just a single engineering bay. A lot of times when you see this delayed upgrades, you do double engineering bay immediately, so his upgrades will be a little bit later. Especially, you know, in Terran vs. Protoss, you want to actually be ahead of the Protoss. Because the chrono boost mechanics,
they'll catch up real fast.
Exactly, they catch up, especially at that 3-3.
Potential big push here, though. Vikings trying to get some good shots on this Colossus. Hasselhoffs is adjusting. He has adequate Stalker account so that he can go ahead and focus down those Vikings. Not a ton of Vikings out here for the 3 Colossus. In fact, it's just 6.
Here's that drop in the top left-hand corner. An instant warp in by some Zealots. Hasselhoff on top of everything. Now the factory is being taken out in the front. That drop cleaned up very easily. Great job by Hasselhoff.
Hasselhoff's is looking impenetrable. Like that drop, insta-warping, like you said. Even in the 1 Stalker to make sure that if that medevac does want to stick around, it's probably going to go down to the focus fire. Blink is queued up behind Charge. The Charge has completed. Now Blink, as well as the Twilight Council. And one thing to note here, too, Colossus production has stopped. This is something that's huge. You guys have probably heard me talk about this all over the place. Sixpool Gaming, also even on my own stream. But 3 Colossus is such a problematic number. The Terran doesn't know. Is it 3, then 4, then 5? Is it just 3? But the Protoss is able to go ahead and take that money that would otherwise be spent on Colossus and use them towards Templar, which means that the Terran has to go a completely separate tech path, and it really complicates things.
That's why it's so important to actually limit the Colossus count as much as possible. Even a single Colossus will actually delay that high Templar tech quite a bit. So if you can have any engagements in this early game stage, it's actually really nice if you pick off those Colossus. Now you can see engagement happening right now.
This is the big fight, Gretorp. Oh
gosh.
Missed force fields, and that's going to cost him some hits on the Colossus, but also some alone time for that Bio Army and the Natural. That should go down almost to wall. Hold the phone. He wants to take the ramp for himself, but a good force field does go down, and he does have Blink, so there is the option to Blink up there. Will he do it? We're going to have to wait and see. Colossus trying to get protected. Vikings wander a little bit too far forward. Now the force field's working against the Protoss player. The Zealots are getting funneled to their own death. Big warp in behind that bio isn't going to be enough for Gretorp.
I don't know. The charge is definitely helping out a little bit, but as you said, that the force fields are actually hurting Hasselhoff so much now. Blinking back, he's going to try to salvage some of this, but the damage has been done. Too many Marines and Marauders up here into the main. Beautiful position. Great movement by BCQD. He's going to take out, it looks like, all these pylons. Oh, this is going to be a big unpower taking out, it looks like 4 gateways. This is going to be all but over for Hasselhoffs for this first game.
And there's no amount of warp-ins you can do to kill that many Marauders. Like, you can look, they're actually low on health. Damage has been done, but off just the 4 gateways now that are powered. And there's the next swell of units. Hasselhoffs, GG's, and the first game will go to Beastie Cutie. Gretorp, I want to go back to a couple of things here. That first set of force fields, I think it was 3 or 4, which was supposed to either, I feel like it was supposed to trap the Bio Army, but it was so early that I have to believe he was actually like, oh, you stay back. But it was weird because he was cornering him to his own natural.
Exactly. I mean, he's not protecting any position. You know, he's trying to say, I don't want to fight just yet, but if you want to do that, you have to do it initially when your opponent is right outside that natural, that like in-between area.
Yep.
You can't give alone time for that Terran army to just ravage buildings. Because let me tell you, Marauders, I heard, are pretty good against buildings that don't attack.
They're pretty good against them. The next interesting kind of decisions or set of decisions was when Beastie Cutie went over to the natural, and I was like, well, sure, this base is going to go down. But Beastie Cutie actually saw an opportunity to take that ramp, which means Zealots don't have Blink, Archons don't have Blink. If you can't get up this ramp and I have a full concave at the top of that, go ahead and blink your soft stalkers up here. I'm not worried about those guys. But if I can minimize the attack space your Zealots have, then that means I'm probably going to be trading adequately. Now, that was made worse when Hasselhoffs tried to get pretty colorful and block off some of the army on that ramp, but then he threw additional force fields behind that, creating a madhouse for the Zealots to run through, and that was just no good.
I don't get why he did that, but BCQD pushing up into the main, it basically says, Hasselhoffs, do something right now. Hasselhoffs could lose his natural and say, okay, well, for that, I'm going to punish you by killing all of your units. And then he's okay. You know, you've killed a ton of Marines and Marauders. You have a good engagement. Great. But by pushing himself up into that main, he says, do something now or I'm going to take out all your gateways, all your robos, all your forges. And that forces Protoss to go into a bad position. You saw those Colossus not really get great shots. I think an exact opposite situation would have happened if he stayed on that low ground.
I think you're right.
Great, quick decision-making by BCQD.
Yep.
But that being said, we're going to go into Game 2, ladies and gentlemen, and see the continuation of this series, so don't go anywhere. TVP action coming your way after this break.